That fuel gauge on my speedometer cost me almost $800. Let's talk about that. Let's get cracking. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everyone. I hope you had a good holiday season. On today's episode, we're going to talk about kind of a snafu I got into when I was working on my Cafe Roadster build. And we'll talk about how that went down and some huge mistakes I made that cost me a lot of money in the long run. Now, how this unfolded, the original OEM stock gauge actually had the bar graph for the gas gauge kind of into it, but it was never wired or programmed to have that as an option, which forces you to buy a new speedometer that had the electronics hooked up to activate that gas gauge. So in my pea brain, I got the idea that I was just going to buy the fuel level sensor kit, throw a picture of it up here, and basically install it. You have to remove the tank, remove the fuel pump, replace all the seals, put a tiny little jumper cable, which is very problematic. There's nothing on YouTube. I probably should have shot a video about that, but it was kind of brain surgery on this particular model to get that done, but I did it and reassembled it. Of course, I switched it on with great anticipation. Nope, not gonna happen. I tore it back down a second time, rechecked all my work, everything was spot on, put it back together, no go. So off I went to Stonewall Harley-Davidson to see my parts manager, Kim, and we talked about it. She said, no, sorry to be the bearer of bad news here, but you have to buy a specific speedometer to activate that option on your Roadster. Great, how much is that? So the digital speedometer with the TAC was $350. Now bear in mind the fuel level sensor kit was $150. So I'm into it for $500 to get a gas gauge to work on my Sportster. So I tore apart the front end housing of the speedometer up here and installed the new gauge, wired it up correctly, sealed her, buttoned her all up. Great anticipation, switched the key on, a big no, didn't work. So I tore the bike down a third time, meaning pulled the gas tank, pulled the sender, retraced all my steps to make sure my work was spot on. Put it back together, that did not work. So I tore apart a fourth time the gas tank and the speedometer, reinstalled it all, figuring there's got to be an issue here that I'm missing. It was a no-go. So this was over a span of 1 year. I've been clowning around with this issue to get this speedometer that I have big money invested in to get a option of a gas tank. Now bear in mind, we're talking about a peanut gas tank and it's running on fumes at 100 miles, but I had to have the gas gauge. I thought it looked cool. So out of frustration, I called up the service department, talked to Robert, my service writer at Stonewall Harley-Davidson, explained the situation. No tech, not a single tech on this planet likes to back cleanup behind somebody else that has worked on the bike and boogered it up. Fortunately, I'm meticulous about my work and I save every wrapper of every part that has the part number on it, all the directions, the receipts. Here it is, here's where I'm at, here's where it derailed and I can't get it to work. And Robert was confident, he says, no problem. We have Gary in the back who's been with Stonewall Harley-Davidson, previously it was called Woes Harley-Davidson, for 32 years. This guy knows these bikes inside and out. So I set the surface appointment and set it up to drop it off. Of course, they were booked a month out on service. You know, it still was kind of busy with the kind of Indian summer we had with the warm weather going into November and December. I dropped it off and we went on vacation. I'm like, keep it. I'm so annoyed with this job. I'm ready to open the gas tank and strike a match to it. I was so angry at it. It's not very often I get stumped working on my bikes, but I have totally been stumped on this one. So they kept it for 3 weeks. I got back from vacation. I waited another week, gave him a call, any status, and he said, well, Gary's having problems chasing it down too. We're still working on it. Kim was working with Harley-Davidson for the parts that I purchased to see if any of them were defective to get them replaced under warranty. So bear in mind, it's been over a year, and normally anything electrical has a very limited warranty. So Kim went over and above the call of duty to try and help me out on here. So huge props to Stonewall Harley-Davidson. Long and the short of it is, I finally get a call, come on down and pick it up. And the total of the bill, I'll throw it up here on the screen, was $272. 90% of that was labor to chase down this problem. And at the end of the day, you want to know what the problem was? A single resistor that had nothing to do with the gas tank install or the speedometer install. It was a resistor back on the panel back here to get it to function properly. I could have shot myself. I was mortified that I put Robert and Gary through this, and Kim, due to my negligence. So the upswing is I have my gas gauge. It works flawlessly. The bike is complete by my standards. I'm kind of particular about my bikes, and that everything works as it should, OEM from the factory. And the job got done. So the reason why I wanted to shoot a video about this is when you get into it, whether you own a Kawasaki, a Honda, or a Harley, or an Indian, when you get into installing something of this magnitude, do your due diligence, go talk to your dealer and ask them about the pitfalls. Exactly how many kits do I need to buy to get where I'm trying to go on this upgrade on my bike? Even if it's turn signals, there may be a turn signal relocation kit, or there may be an extended wiring harness to accommodate the LED turn signals so that it doesn't throw the canvas system off on the bike and throw a code. It gets very involved. The bikes are so interwoven now that it's like a domino effect. So when I knock over one domino, that triggered this one, and this one to get this to work. So what did my gas gauge cost for my 100-mile range Roadster? In total, it cost me $772 and a lot of aggravation and a year out of my life and hours upon hours of tearing this down. So I hope you learned something today in today's video. Thank you for joining me today. And remember, folks, go running because it's good for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.